Shy, and today I would like to get real about body image. There we go. I'd like to start with a challenge. I want all of you here in front of me in the next 5 seconds to think of one thing that you really, truly, genuinely love about yourself. So on your mark, get set, go. Okay, your time is up. Now, let's just think together for one moment. How long did it take each of you out here to think of that one thing? For some of you, maybe it was like on the front of your mind, right there. Maybe for others, it took you 2 or 3 seconds to get there. And for some of you, maybe you didn't think of anything at all. Whatever the case, no pressure, I'm not going to grade this, but that's kind of what I'm here to talk about today. To shift. We live in a culture, in a society, that's driven by the media, driven by technology. Especially for those of us participating in a TED Talk, I think this is really true, right? We know what's going on. So some of you may have noticed this growing body image movement on the internet. Now, especially popular is Dove, the soap company, their Real Beauty campaign. Take a look at this video they published a few years ago. It showcases Photoshop usage in advertisements like billboards, magazines, etc., etc. Now, if you're really paying attention, you may have noticed this positive self-talk movement as a part of this other broader movement. I stole these posters from, I think, Facebook and Tumblr. This one says, love yourself. And the other one next to it says, you are beautiful at any weight. These posters are everywhere. They're all over the internet. And we can even look to the music industry to see examples and evidence of this growing movement. Christina Aguilera a few years back saying that you are beautiful no matter what they say. And for most of you teenagers out there, you can probably sing the next lines with me. Words can't bring you down, am I right? Well, I'm not trying to shed any of these in a negative light. Trust me, I think it's actually really wonderful that the media is trying to make a sort of comeback at the negative things that we're dealing with. However, I'm just going to say that I do not believe that this stuff up here is the solution to the body image problem we have at hand. And here's why. In May of 2012, I was diagnosed with something called polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS as I will refer to it. Now, PCOS is just a hormonal imbalance, and it causes me to have issues with weight control. It is a scientific fact for my body that I have issues losing weight, while it's really easy for me to gain weight. So it's quite the paradox. Now, as this was brought to light, I was living in Shanghai, China as an expat, as I am now. Now, bear with me, please, because this is really important to my sort of personal experience. There exists a stereotype that Asian women are generally smaller than we Caucasian women. I say this is true from personal experience. I will attest to this from my personal experience, not from any racist inclinations, okay? Now, I live in China, so I know this pretty well. This is what my life looks like. I interact on a daily basis with a lot of people who are generally smaller than me. And in May of 2012 and on into 2013, this was really hard for me. Because I went to school and I saw all of my friends who are generally a lot smaller than me. And I went home and I saw lots of my neighbors who are a lot smaller than me. And everywhere I went, I saw small, 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 small. And that really hurt because after a while, well, I looked at my friends who I love so much and respect so much, and I saw them looking like this. And I went home and I looked in the mirror, and I saw this, right? and for me, that wasn't okay. And so I started to play this comparison game. And soon enough, this comparison game took over my life. And I started to think things like, am I worse than all these people I see every day? And I felt really insignificant. And I thought to myself, I really need to lose weight. And, you know, he would never like me. And I'm terrible. And I'm gross. And I'm really ugly. And you know, I'm not good enough. And then I began to think things like, why did God do this to me? Why did he choose me? Because that isn't fair. He could have given me some easier problem to deal with. Why did he choose me? It could have been any other girl. Why did you pick me? That's so unfair. Come on, why did you do that to me? And then I began to think, I'm just so disgusting, and I'm worthless, and I need to be more like her, and her, and her, and her, and her, and her, and her. So here's my thought. When I looked at this stuff, magazines, movies, whatever, what have you, I thought, well, I'm definitely not as beautiful as her. I mean, we know that she's pretty much fake anyway. She's photoshopped, right? But that girl in chem class who sits next to me, well, I'm definitely not as good as her either. And then I saw this poster that says, you are beautiful just the way you are. But for me, that wasn't true. I didn't buy that because I didn't believe it. That wasn't real to me. For me, that was just a bunch of talk, and as we all know today, talk doesn't cook any rice. So, after a semester or two, let's be honest, spent in tears in a state close to depression, I think, I ended up in the counselor's office. And as humiliating as that was for me, a junior in high school, so socially awkward, that's where my journey began. And that's what got me to this stage today, speaking to all of you. So here's my idea that I truly believe is 100% worth sharing. I believe that body image is internalized. I believe that body image is methodical as it is practiced. And I have a method. 3 steps. First, own up. Second, understand. And third, change. So here we go. The first step, own up. For me, owning up to this problem, you can think of like an addict. They have to own up to their problem before they can solve anything, right? For me, this looked like talking to someone. I talked to my nutritionist, I talked to my counselor, and God bless her soul, I talked to my mother a lot. And for me, this looked like having no shame. You know who I think of? I think of Jean Valjean in the book, the film, and the musical now, that character who sings that song, Who Am I? And I had to discover who I was for all of my faults, for all of my problems, and for my good attributes too, right? So this led me to my second step, to understand. So here's me thinking in the corner. And I had to record. I recorded my thoughts when I looked in the mirror, when I looked at photos of myself, when I looked at magazines. And I figured out what I thought when. And this led me to my third step, changing my thought patterns. And this is probably the most important step because it led me to where I am today. So I figured out, when I looked in the mirror, I would probably think something along the lines of, you look gross. Well, I started to swap my thoughts. So instead of thinking you look gross, I would think something a lot more realistic. Maybe, you didn't feel like putting on makeup today, but you know what, your smile's still nice. And so as I got stronger and as I grew more, I began to develop this sort of mantra that I would repeat to myself. So when I had this thought, you look gross, instead I would think, life is not a beauty pageant. And if you go to school not looking like a supermodel, well, that's just going to have to be okay. And so on days when it was really hard, this is probably the most important part, I would just think, stop. Just stop what you're doing, stop what you're thinking, take a step back and take a deep breath. Because you're fine, and just get over it. So all of these steps led me to develop a really good body image. And there are a whole host of benefits of this thing. And this includes self-confidence, poise, and a better attitude. But do you know what is just the best part of this? The best bottom line that could possibly ever come with this? Well, it's that I lead a much happier life now. I don't cry myself to sleep. I don't wake up in the morning and just not even want to show up to school. I lead a happy life, and it's really great. So to conclude, I would just like to get real about body image one last time. What you see here up on this screen is just a bunch of talk. And you know what? It doesn't give rise to anything positive. This doesn't cook any rice, if you will. So, please, just take this from the girl who has been on both sides of this story. Take this from the girl who has been through her own personal hell. If at the beginning of this talk you couldn't think of that one thing, or maybe even 2 or 3 things that you really, really like about yourself, well then I think it's time for you to get real. Because it may just change your life. It sure as heck changed mine. Thank you.